we are collectively telling cafes, pubs, bars and restaurants to close tonight as soon as they reasonably can and not to open tomorrow. Though, to be clear, they can continue to provide takeout services. Now, these are places where people come together, and indeed the whole purpose in many cases of these businesses is to bring people together. But the sad thing is, I'm afraid today, for now, at least physically, we need to keep people apart.
My name is Gabs, and I'm a beer guy based in London, and I go to pubs a lot. Pubs are facing their worst ever crisis since March 2020, when lockdown forced closure. In this show, we will offer a unique insight on London pubs, trying to understand how much this culture is at risk. We will ask the masterminds behind the capital's beer industry how they are turning the tide for the future of this British heritage. The pub is a serious thing. In this episode, we will explore the East London Triangle, talking with the management of 3 iconic pubs and Maximilian Smith from the Brooklyn Brewery European marketing team. Pubs are now open with many difficulties to stay afloat. Breweries are facing their own crisis, and customers are developing a different drinking habit. Is this the death of the British boozer as we know it? We will find out. I have many memories attached to the King's Arms. It is a stunning East London local with less than 10 years of life. In the heart of Bethnal Green, it looks like a typical old-school corner pub outside the main road and among council blocks. Inside you find a minimalist decor, an archetype of the modern boozer with a cozy and comfortable atmosphere. This place was here before Bethnal Green was cool. On tap, 20 draft lines in rotation with some of the finest local and international beers. An incredible back bar, perfect for any celebration. I spent a wonderful New Year's Eve with my wife, lots of friends and many Brooklyn Brewery Black Ops at this great venue. Ian, the GM, is an excellent guy. When I called him to join me for an interview, despite a bit of initial skepticism, he thought I was trying to sell him something. He invited me over to the pub on one of the first days reopening in July. It was great to see the place ready again.
Hello, Ian. How you doing?
Hey, how are you doing? Cheers.
Cheers. I was dreaming to have, as I said, a pint of cask in our very
Pint of bitter.
Oh, yeah.
It's something you can't replicate at home.
Do you think it's gonna still being a big thing, drinking at home, ordering beer, or?
Yeah, I mean that's obviously going to be like the big challenge is whether people continue to do these habits, especially when it's good weather. Yeah, maybe people have thought it's cheaper to drink at home. There's people who got used to going to the park, they've got used to drinking, they've got maybe used to ordering online, buying takeaway growlers and things like that, which wasn't really part of the UK culture.
I was checking like this report made by Pete Brown, and I think it was 2018 actually, and he was saying about the differences between the rising number of breweries and then tap rooms and the declining numbers of pubs.
Right.
So he was just like, is it going to be a massive, problem if there's going to be so much beer produced, but then the only place where you can actually go and drink
is the tap room.
Is it the tap room?
I don't think that'll happen. I mean, places like this one, I think will survive. There is obviously a decline in pubs, but I think it depends what type of pub you're talking about. In terms of craft beer, no, I think the future is very much going to be more emphasis on drinking local beer.
Did you have good support from the breweries that you are supporting?
Yeah, absolutely. Your drinking Pirate 5 Points, they've been great. They were quick to get on board, quick to restock us and things like that. Most of the local breweries have been quick to help out and things like that. Camden especially, who we have a good relationship of being quick in sorting out like the old kegs that we had.
There we go.
Like all the local breweries like Colonel, we have a good relationship with Colonel, Camden, Pressure Drop, Brew by Numbers, but just to name a few, like 5 points. You've got like 5 points down the road. You've got Pressure Drop down
Just
the road.
need to ring them.
Exactly, you ring them and they can be here the same day if you absolutely stuck. So yeah, it's going to take a while for the breweries to get back up to speed with what actually needs to be produced.
Yeah.
Which is difficult because we don't know how much people are drinking at the moment. I guess it's just going to be like on a week by week, but obviously beer takes longer than a few days to make, so it's going to sort of take a while to filter down before it gets back to kind of a normal level.
Should we stay positive about not losing the old school British boozers as we are used to know them?
For the craft beer industry, I don't know, it's interesting, it's more interesting. You've got like more of a interesting fan base of people who want to support craft beer is different. People want to support craft beer as well as support the venues, whereas like I feel like normal pubs, people just want to support pubs.
Yeah.
So you've always got that going forward. I mean, I'm positive. Definitely
Sure,
positive.
100%.
Yeah.
What we still need to do to make sure that's happening, and to who we should receive this type of help? Is it coming from the consumers? Is it coming from the government? Is it coming from the brewers? Is it coming from, associations or who should do their part, and in which way, in your opinion?
I mean, customers obviously can play their part by coming in.
That's the main thing.
That's the main thing. From a government or council level, I'm not sure exactly what they can do. I mean, obviously they could relax the guidelines, but if it's not safe to do so, there's no point in us pushing for that. I mean, we can only go with the advice they're given. So, from like breweries and distributors, I don't know. I mean, there's only so much they can help us without
Stretching themselves.
Right, stretching themselves, and then it having a knock-on effect onto them. And I can't see them being able to do anything. And mainly the customers, I think, as I said.
Yeah, customers. So
I think so. I think that it is like trusting that we are doing our best to keep it a safe environment, trusting that we are trying to provide it as much as a relaxing, normal environment as possible. Come drink in the King's Arms.
Come drink in the King's Arms.
To give a better insight on the international world of beer, we will be talking to Maximilian Smith. He is the European Customer Marketing Manager for Brooklyn Brewery. Brooklyn Brewery is a leading global independent craft brewer, a pioneer of the American craft beer revolution. From their home in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, they draw inspiration from the local community of innovators, makers, and doers to spread the culture and creativity of their craft beer to 30 US states and over 30 countries on 5 continents. Their brewmaster, Gary Oliver, and his team brew everything from classic styles to bold experiments and collaborate with brewers, innovators, and artists worldwide. You used to run a pub back in the days in London, right?
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Used to run a wrestling pub of sorts. We'd
Wow.
do live wrestling shows with all the locals involved every other month. It was a hell of a place for a couple of years. I mean, it nearly killed me. Just maintaining, just the wildest kind of like social ecosystem. That's the thing. If you run a truly welcoming local joint, you're housing people from all walks of life, and you're bringing them together.
What does represent pub culture for you?
I mean, pub culture for me is community. It's the place that's always there when you need it, and sometimes when you don't need it. And with all of the craziness that's been going on, and the struggles people are going through, I think we can all rest assured that ain't going anywhere.
Something that we realize is this big trend about drinking at home. It's a habit, right? And which is terrible for pubs because we're all scared, and this is going to last longer than we want to. Anyway, from a brewery point of view, is it the only solution for breweries to survive right now?
mad love to all the brewers and everyone that have, had to keep at it and slog away in these kind of isolated environments. I'm sure it's not the same for them either. But, supporting breweries is super important because, the pubs are going to need the breweries, when they come back. So it's all part of that chain. So, beer is the essence, right? That's the liquid, the golden liquid and glue for everyone within our community. So we got to keep drinking, man, even if it's at home.
What, in a way, makes the space the real home and the brewery have, and we think in a way is the tap room? What do you have to say about the place?
Well, like Brooklyn Brewery's, tap room over in New York, it isn't just a tap room for, first and foremost, it's a tap room for the local community, yes, but being where it is and situated where it is, it's a tap room for the world. I mean, New York is a global city, and you get in that yellow cab at JFK, and, Brooklyn Brewery's on that map that you're staring in the back of the cab, so the team over there are missing that buzz and missing that vibe and that, just diverse crowd of people that are welcome from all over the world into the brewery every day. The tap room is such a huge part of who we are. I feel a certain disconnect, and I work in the Brooklyn Brewery international team, so I wish I was there. I wish I could be a part of that kind of hustle and grind of trying to keep that flow going. And I think we find that all breweries are actually, especially with the pubs closed, doing their bit to really support the community, whether it be donations to local organizations, pubs when they have been opened or closed, providing, in the States it's quite big, the old curbside pickup. You can come and get yourself a little keg or a growler or something like that. And I know that's still flowing, over in Brooklyn, just getting beer to the people when everything else is shut. So
the Alma in Newington Green was saved from greedy developers at the end of 2013, becoming an asset of community value by Islington Council. And in the last few years, a Time Out multi-award winner as London's most loved pub. Every place has a distinct theme. In the Alma's case, it's movies, thanks to their posters from films like Casablanca, The Brief Encounter, The Third Man and The Blues Brothers, everything else you could think of, including film paraphernalia and memorabilia plastered across every wall. This makes it a true tribute to the glitz of the film industry. It has a handful of good beers on tap, a quality wine selection and an exciting cocktail menu. There is a gastropub style cuisine that befits the area. Open 7 days a week, serving up traditional British cooking with a modern twist. Burgers and bangers to daily specials, Sunday roast and stone-baked pizza. There is also a beer garden. If that wasn't enough, they even have a piano to top off the glamour of the silver screen.
I would love to see if you agree with me with the 4 things that, in my opinion, in these days could make a pub unmissable to go. Mm-hmm. Clear navigations, instructions in the place to well behave during these weird times. Top quality, especially of the beer, so lines properly, cleaned and kegged in good conditions and blah blah blah. An atmosphere which is not too disrupted from how it used to be before. And fourth, someone didn't think about that, but I think honestly that's key. Happy stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. We have marked everything. We have a smart dispense system, which is from Heineken UK, and they clean the lines for us. And it's extra cold. So that's absolutely, and as I said, keep the staff happy. Just make sure everyone's catered for, make sure they're fed and watered.
Did you go to all the pubs in these days?
I have been to several.
How do you feel in most of them overall?
It's normal to me because obviously I worked the first few days we were open. I worked. I didn't go to another pub till the next week midway through. I was obviously watching, I want to see what they're doing, obviously. But yeah, I just did exactly what I would expect somebody to do if they come in here. You know, look for the register, I sign that, I stand back, I wait for someone to move, I go, I order my drink, pass for money or card, whatever, and yeah, so I'm probably the ideal customer.
If there is something that you would see as helpful, not even necessarily for the Arma, but for pubs in general, what would you say the industry needs, apart from confidence from customers right now?
Just think about how you behave in the pub, you know. I'll touch wood, thankfully, we haven't had any problems. But it's just makes twice the work when you have to go and constantly tell people can you please sit down, you take a seat, you can't stand here, you can't stand there with your pint and watching football.
I'm amazed that you sometimes have to remind that, despite the fact that we are living in these days.
It's people just change when they have a few beers, you know. It's not that they forget, it's they don't realise. You're doing something all your life, and all of a sudden it's changed. Your body automatically reacts to certain things.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility to enforce all of these restrictions, so it just makes our job a little bit more difficult. You need a little bit more patience too.
This is something that crossed my mind all the time. If I was in these days working behind the bar, how much more I would have to put on top of the already vast amount of job.
Well, what we've tried not to put that onto any particular member of staff, so we have staff who serve drinks.
Right.
And obviously they keep the bar tidy, keep the bar clean. You know, if I'm over there, someone comes in, could you please sign the book, have you booked the table, then we go get your table. Then we'll have somebody who's just going to serve food when the food comes down through the dumb waiter. They'll do that. My job is just to run around and make sure everything is okay and that we don't get over capacity and people behave themselves, basically.
The fact that you won an award for a community, driven pub, and means that the people around here knows you well.
Yes, indeed.
Know how great you are, about the atmosphere, and probably they were also missing you during these 3 months.
They certainly were. There's a lot of people they're just so happy the pub is back. I met people on the street while we were locked down, and they were just, please, open up again. They just want somewhere to go, and as you said, it's community pub, so people come in, they just enjoy it. You know, it's kind of humble, it's low key, it's a lovely vibe, and you know, it's not a kind of pub where people are, you know, shouting and running around the place. It's just groups of people come in, they eat, they drink, they have fun, and they go home.
We're jumping back to hear what Max has to tell us. How beautiful it is to have someone like you on the field, because that's where your specialties, are you special with? And I always heard about, how you can really support pubs and you can really working well with them. Again, from a marketing, from sales point of view, which is great. And are you with Brooklyn Brewery planning any sort of programs for supporting UK pubs? And if you want to talk about the US, feel free as well. We're really curious to hear that.
I mean, the heart of what Brooklyn Brewery's always done, from Steve Hindy, the founder, when we didn't have marketing budgets, we didn't have marketing teams, it was always a case of, beer's the best form of support, whether that be to, a pub that needs it when it's opening its doors, or like I've said, local organisations and charities that, need that kind of support as well. That's always been part of what Brooklyn Brewery do. When you talk about support, I think, forget marketing, forget business. It's more like, it's just on an emotional level now, that's the beautiful thing about this industry. The relationships are real, and it's just a case of picking up the phone, checking on people, just like a human level, more than anything. I have no doubt there'll be time for, those partnerships and collaborations and activations when, the time is right.
The Gun is a genuine East London boozer built around the 1860s. Following a bidding war for the lease of this tiny ex-Wheatbread market pub, The Gun was relaunched on the 13th of June 2014 by a new company, Locals Club. Their ambition is to build a small chain of 5 to 10 pubs in East London. Landlords Nick and Hannah Stephens got it in 2014, keeping its original evocative signage. proof it has been a proper boozer for a good chunk of its existence. They serve beers from independent brewers, artisan spirits, carefully selected wines, and make classic cocktails. Friends come in and play records every weekend. Now and then, they throw in a special guest and the odd late license to keep things interesting. The Gun smashed a fundraising target of £30,000 in a record time after the community it serves came to the rescue during the coronavirus crisis. They did not expect the outpouring of support and donations. The pub still has an authentically local feel. It's a perfect place to stop by for a couple of pints.
No one really knew what was going on. So at the beginning it started off with a bit of Dunkirk spirit. It was like, look, you know, we're going to stay open and we're here for you. And then after a while you could feel the shift and you're like, actually, this is not what, you know, maybe this is not what people want. You know, this maybe, do we want this? And then maybe we're like, oh, okay. And then everyone's like, right, okay, we're going to close because this is the right thing to do. And people voted with their feet really towards the end, you know, and it just dried up. People were just like, you know, I don't want to get sick, I'm a family, whatever, and so they just stopped coming in. So we closed on the Thursday, the Compton, we closed on the Friday, and it was literally like a couple of foolhardy pissheads in there going, I'll be fine. You know, like in the films, when something happens in a disaster film and everyone's glued to the telly and they're like, you know, they're waiting for the president to come on and say, look, you know, this is what's happening. Look, the country's going to die. And, you know, we're going to go in 6 weeks or something. And this is what it's like. I mean, I have to stand there looking at Boris, thinking this chump's in charge.
You went through it. You went through it well. You're here to, you know, today to reopen the bar and like crack on.
Well, there's no bones about it. We wouldn't be here unless we had that crowdfund. You know, we're heavily into that money now. I mean, it was. You know, but people asked us about this a lot, and I was saying that it was a life-affirming thing for us, really humbling. But we had a good feeling, and our friend, everyone was saying, "Don't worry, you're going to be all right." Anyway, so we didn't want to do it, and then when we did do it, you get nervous about it, and we said, "Look, we'll have a drink for every £1,000 that's being made." We're like, "Right, okay." So we put one of our kegs on, and by 2 o'clock we're all trashed, and we're like, and so the next day I woke up and then obviously we'd hit what we'd done, but it was like the best day / worst hangover of my life. Like, I was in the shower like laughing and crying and staggering. The next day it was a nightmare.
Overall, generally speaking, we said that the culture is not at risk because people are going to keep staying close to their locals and the pub that they love the most. So I'm not super worried about that. And we would love to saying, watch back, hope that everything went through properly in the right way. How do you feel about that? Is it possible?
I think, you know, history. You want to be able to look back and say I did the right things. You never want to look back. There's nothing sexy about being greedy. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to look back and go, I jeopardised someone's, you know, well-being by making a short-term cash decision.
Yeah.
You want to look back and go, right, I looked after my staff, I looked after my punters. My punters looked after us, right? You know, our punters came and saved us, you know. And so look at it, I think if you pay it in the right way, it all comes back round. We try to look after people when they come in here, and you never expect to get a payback. We got a massive payback.
If you are protected as pub category by an organisation or by association out there, which I'm asking, I don't know if that's how it works, someone should have go to the right person and be like, rent, we have a problem.
There was the national timeout. It's like a hashtag thing. The national timeout thing. I know Jonathan Downey and Rob Starr, and there was a few guys got together. It started, I think, because Burger King were worried about their sort of central London rent, and it went from there. And there's all these restaurants and pubs who are paying all this money.
Yeah.
And I can't pay that. You know, it's just nonsensical, and you can't leave it up to just negotiating with your landlord, who just a lot of the time just doesn't give a shit. Yeah. Something that should have happened. Right, that would have made everything a lot easier is the national timeout thing. They should have said, right, rent suspended, and you know, they should have looked after the landlords, and they should have put it on the end of our leases. Then, you know, God knows how many, like, you know, stress-related incidents, people making decisions they didn't need to make. We shouldn't have to be worried about that. Everyone's sort of saying, yeah, borrow £50,000, get into debt. It's not too much, you're going to get to pay it back. It's borrowing. If you want to saddle it with another 50 or whatever grand debt just to pay landlords, you know, or all these, you know, people that are being supported by the government. There's a lot of landlords be getting screwed. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not here to slag that off. But the government could have just said, right, suspend it 6 months. We'll pick it up again. And I mean, what really would have been the downside of that?
Here is Max with the final conclusion.
It seems to, there seems to be a strategy now, at least, or like we took. Obviously, anything can happen, but now's the time we got to get down and try and play by these rules, and actually get out of this mess together. So
I would love from someone with your experience and your passion for pubs and your knowledge as well, to tell me if you have any sort of advices that you want to give to pubs.
There's no advice like I can give, after something that's kind of been this long and this kind of up and down to any business really and their businesses. I mean, I see what our owners are going through, even what would be considered like a big brand and a big business. It's all relative. There's trying to figure out how to plug these holes and how to forecast, and you make these predictions about what's to come. What's marketing in a time like this? But there's always a fine line with marketing and brand and stuff like that, because to some extent, if you're doing the right things and you're doing the human things and the things that really matter, you don't need to shout about it and put it on Instagram. Yes, of course, we're working on things in the background. We've got 3, 4, 5 year plans. We're working on new beers, new campaigns that are truly, truly awesome.
How do you see the future of UK pubs, and how do you see future of UK beer?
No, that's it. I've just got goosebumps. I've just suddenly just such an emotional sort of time and question. But look, there will always be beer, man. Like, you only have to look back at history. We've been through some terrible wars and terrible tyrants, all the way back from the Mesopotamia kind of, times up until this present day. Societies have broken down, kingdoms have fallen, but, the one thing that's always consistent is when the chaos is over, everyone's back in the pub, right? Like, everyone is back to making beer, and there is always a future for beer. There is always a future for pubs. That's in my opinion. This is not a seismic shift where everyone just thinks, "Oh, great! I'm just going to sit at home now and just drink alcohol-free beer by myself and stare at the oven." It's just.
Thank you for watching Turning the Tide, a What's in the Glass production. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, email us at whatsintheglassuk@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. See you down the pub!